Hello everyone and welcome to this video in which we'll be looking at the questions and answers of one of the CAT reading comprehension exercises from CAT 2023 slot 1. In a previous video of the same series, I had discussed how to read that passage. So if you have not watched that video, I definitely encourage you to go back and watch that video and then come down to this video. And hoping that you've already read the passage and once tried out the questions yourself. If you have, then let me discuss quickly the questions and solutions for this exercise, which talks about the return of wolves to Lozère. So question number 1 says that the author presents a possible economic solution to an existing issue facing Lozère that takes into account the divergent and competing interests of whom? So who are having divergent and competing interests as far as the return of wolves to Lozère is concerned? So let's go through the options and let's pick out the options which are definitely incorrect first. So of A, B, C, and D, the two options that we should definitely eliminate to begin with are going to be options C and D. Why? Because the common factor that is going to cause us to eliminate C and D are politicians. Why? Because the passage does not talk about the opinions of politicians in general. Inside the passage, one single politician's opinion, Francis Colombi, he is a parliamentarian, aspiring parliamentarian rather. Only this politician's opinion is being spoken about inside the passage. So the passage does not talk about the opinion of any other politician or politicians in general for that matter. So for that reason, nor C or D can be actually thought of as something that is present inside the passage. So these two are the first two options that we have to eliminate. Among the remaining two options, of course, the correct answer is going to be A, farmers and environmentalists, and not tourists and environmentalists. Why? Because we had discussed in the reading of the passage video itself, the tourists and environmentalists are happy that the wolves have returned, whereas farmers are considering it to be a problem and they're against the return of the wolves. This can in fact be substantiated by this sentence in the passage, which says that they grumble that green activists and politically correct urban types have allowed the return of the old enemy. So when they're talking about green activists here, then they are referring to the environmentalists, and that is why the correct answer to question number 1 has to be option A. Right, if 1 is clear, let's move on to 2. 2 says, which one of the following, if true, would weaken the author's claims? This is a critical reasoning question because it is saying that which one of them, if true, this is a very important part of the question to focus upon. So we have to assume while reading every option that the option is true and then decide whether the option, if it is true, it's going to strengthen or weaken the author's claims. So before we even look at the options, we have to understand what are the claims of the author. The claims of the author is that wolves have returned. And because of return of wolves, farmers are happy because it is causing them problems. But environmentalists and tourists are happy. Also, when we look at it from an economic perspective, then there is losses, economic losses definitely happening for farmers. But also economic gains are happening because of tourism increasing. So these are the claims made by the author. So one by one, if you look at the options, the first options that we have to eliminate are absolutely going to be option C. Having migrated out in the last century, wolves are now returning to Lozère. This is directly the main topic of discussion. So the author is agreeing with this. So if this is true, then it will actually strengthen the claims of the author, if at all, because it is the same thing that the author is saying. So C cannot be the correct answer. Of the remaining options, the next option that I will personally eliminate is option B, because let's say that in old mining sites of Lozère now, these are being used as grazing pastures for sheep. Then this means that the wolves are going to come and hunt the sheep because wolves are returned to Lozère, which is going to cause losses again to livestock, which is going to cause at least some kind of problems to farmers. Farmers have said that they are losing livestock and that is a problem of farmers, which is being claimed by the author inside the passage. So B is agreeing with the author's claims. So it cannot weaken the claim of the author. That's why B is not the correct answer. Right? Now answer is either A or D. Now among these two, if I compare them, then A says that unemployment concerns is the residents of Lozère. Now, although this is not part of the main topic of discussion, the author is not talking about whether unemployment is a primary concern for the residents of Lozère or not. But the author does say that employment is being generated by the tourist industry, which means that getting more opportunities for employment is definitely a positive in the opinion of the author. So if at all A will strengthen the author's argument that unemployment is a concern. But the author is not talking about unemployment per se as any part of the topic of discussion inside the passage. So A does not seem like it is strengthening the thoughts of the writer much. But even more than A, what weakens the author's argument for sure is that wolf attacks on tourists in Lozère are on the rise. Because if this is true, then it means that tourists would also not be happy with the return of the wolves. So the primary claim that tourists are happy and farmers are sad, which is the claim of the author, will be absolutely weakened. And that is why D will be the correct answer to question number 2. It is opposite of whatever is the belief of the writer. Right, if this is clear, let's move on to question number 3. 3 says, which one of the following has not contributed to the growing wolf population in Lozère? Now, which one of these has not contributed, right? This not is very important. And when we are reading the passage, we had discussed that in the third paragraph, all the causes for the wolves' return are being discussed. Let's recap that once more. So if I look at the third paragraph, then we know that the first reason is rural depopulation. Population of rural places decreasing is one of the factors that has caused the wolves to return. Then because of the rural population decreasing, we also discussed that what is happening here is that as humans withdraw, the forests are expanding. So expanding forests are also a reason for the return of the wolves. And of course, next reason is that decline of hunting as a sport. So these three are the reasons, are the factors because of which wolves are returning. So this is something that clearly is given inside this paragraph as the 3 reasons why the population of wolves has increased. If we understand this, now if we look at the options, then D is a cause contributing to return of wolves because granting a protected status, which is why it is not being hunted anymore, decrease of hunting is happening. C is definitely not the answer because it talks about an increase in woodland and forest cover, so forests are expanding. And finally, B is not the answer because it is talking about rural depopulation or decline in rural population. So B, C, and D all have been listed inside the passage as a factor contributing to decrease of wolf population in Lozère. Only option which is not mentioned as a cause for the return of the wolves is A. A is true. The Royal Office of Lupari has been shut down. But where has this been mentioned? This has been mentioned in the second paragraph, which is talking about the fact that they completed the job in 1930s. So it has not been shut down in the 1990s when the wolf population returned. It was shut down in 1930s because the last wolf disappeared. So option A, even though it is true according to the passage, but it is not answering the question because question is specifically asking about something or these options which are contributing to the growing wolf population. So A is not a factor which is contributing to it. So it is the one and only option which is not contributing to the growing wolf population. And that's why A becomes the correct answer for 3. And finally, the last question, question number 4. Says that the inhabitants of Lozère have to grapple with all of the following problems except. Now, the problems that inhabitants of Lozère are grappling over is clearly mentioned in the quote or in what the mayor is grumbling about. So what are the mayors of the places which are present in Lozère grumbling about? So they are grumbling about lack of local schools, which means there's a problem with respect to primary education. Lack of jobs, which means unemployment is an issue. And third thing is phone and internet connections. So education, employment, communication. These are the 3 problems that are definitely present in Lozère. Let's see if these options are present. So A is present as a complaint, as a problem of people of Lozère. So A cannot be the correct answer because again, the question is asking which of these is not a problem. So all of these are problems except. So A is a problem definitely listed by the mayor. Decline in number of hunting licenses, not exactly said as a problem. Let's leave out B for now. Let's see what the others are saying. Livestock losses. Let's leave out livestock losses for now. Let's look at D. Lack of educational facilities. Definitely, this is also being recounted as a problem by the mayor. So, which means that A and D are definitely not the correct answer. Answer is either B or C. Now, among B or C, which is a problem that inhabitants of Lozère are grappling with, right? So, of these two, both are happening, right? Because the question or the passage is clearly saying that the sheep farmers are being upset on the French side of the border. Why? Because, of course, wolves are probably killing them, right? So that has been said here. And also, we have been told that in the next paragraph, that number of hunting licenses have decreased. The number of hunters have gone from 2 million to 1.1 million, right? So which means that hunting licenses are definitely falling. So both of these are said inside the passage. So we have to now figure out that which of these two options answers the question better. So question is asking, inhabitants of Lozère have to grapple with what? So grapple means they have to cope with what, they have to fight against what, or they're struggling with respect to what. Now, they are not struggling with respect to hunting licenses. The decrease in hunting licenses is the cause for a problem, but they are not fighting to get more licenses. At least that's not what is being said inside the passage. But definitely, they are fighting or struggling to keep their livestock, the sheep, alive. So livestock losses is definitely a problem that is plaguing them directly. B is not the answer because it might be considered as a cause for the problems of the farmers. So C is a problem, B is a cause for a problem. So for this reason, C is not the answer and B is the answer. That B is not a problem in itself. Livestock losses is a problem. Declining of number of hunting licenses is not a problem in itself, and that's why B is the correct answer for 4. So these are the answers to the 4 questions. Now, what would a good performance out of these 4 questions be? I would say that even though the passage was very easy to read, the solving of the questions, I will still put it as easy to moderate. I would not say that the questions are very easy to solve. Why? Because there is one critical reasoning question here for sure, which sometimes people find a bit confusing to deal with, that which of these if true. So they should be looking at all the options as a possible true statement. And based on that, they have to figure out what is the correct answer. So 2 is a slightly difficult question to understand, but I think the options are pretty easy to eliminate. And plus 3 and 4 have got a negative in them. At least in 3, the negative has been highlighted in full caps. But and 4 also, I believe that in the paper, this was highlighted in full caps. But even then, people often tend to miss out on the negatives inside the question. So sometimes they try to always find out what is true according to the passage, which in a state of hurry inside the examination can lead to a couple of silly mistakes. Plus, I feel that in 4, there can be a proper sense of confusion between B and C. At least A and D are given directly as problems, so B and C are not directly given as problems. So a bit of thought is required. So all of this put together, I would say that 3 correct and 1 wrong is a decent performance in this particular exercise inside the CAT paper itself. Anyone who has got a 3 correct and 1 wrong has done a good job. Anything less than 3 correct out of the 4 questions of this passage should not have happened, and you have made some mistakes which you could have definitely avoided. So that is my take on the 4 questions of this passage. Right, so thank you and stay tuned for the next reading comprehension exercises coming up on our YouTube channel. Take care.